होस्ट है, लाइफ साइकिल कंप्लीट करने के लिए दो इंटरमीडिएट होस्ट चाहिए इसको, द स्नेल एंड द फिश. गेट दैट प्लीज एवरीबॉडी? सो व्हाट इज द इंटरमीडिएट होस्ट एंड प्राइमरी होस्ट? यस बेटा.
So this is the same thing that happens with the tapeworm larvae and
Yes, right now. So यहाँ पर भी it is having two intermediate hosts. Now the mistake which is made by the students is not identifying the primary host. क्योंकि यहाँ पर रीडिंग एनसीईआरटी रीडिंग करते हो, you'll come across हाँ it is having two intermediate hosts. So the question is how many hosts are required for the life cycle of 3? 2 intermediate and 1 primary, ना? Isn't that? So यहाँ पर primary host भूल जाते हो लोग. So if you are asked about intermediate host, it will be 2. If you are asked about total number of hosts, it will be 3. Are we clear about that, please? So who is the primary host for the liver fluke? Man. And the two intermediate hosts are snail and fish. For the vector, what is the example given? Malarial parasite, right? So what is the causative factor for the malaria? It is plasmodium. It's a protozoan called as plasmodium, right? The infectious spore-like stage, right? That needs a vector, mosquito, which is the Anopheles mosquito, Anopheles, to spread to the other host. Now please, you will be covering the entire life cycle of plasmodium, right? You will be studying the disease malaria when you do the chapter human health and diseases, right? So entire life cycle you will be doing at which stage occurs in man and which stage occurs in case of the Anopheles. So यहाँ पर there are two hosts actually. यहाँ पर there are two hosts to complete the life cycle, and in that the mosquito is acting as a vector also. The mosquito here is a vector as the host, दोनों. फिर उसके अंदर भी development. It's not only carrying. A part of the life cycle is established in the mosquito also. So even mosquito is a host for that. Plus it's a vector. So यहाँ पे अपना sentence was life cycle is complex involving intermediate host or vectors. So intermediate host के लिए liver fluke का example was there and vector के लिए malaria का example was there. I hope this is clear, please. Okay. Majority of the parasites harm the host. They may reduce the survival, growth, reproduction of the host, reduce its population density, make it more vulnerable to predation. Parasites, when present on the surface of the host, are ecto, when present inside are endo. The examples for ecto are lice on humans and ticks on dogs. These are examples of ectoparasites. Ectoparasites, right? Ticks on dogs. So the ticks on the surface of the dog is an ectoparasite, right? One very interesting point is, so here dog is the host, tick becomes the ectoparasite. When you examine the digestive system of the tick, within the digestive system you find a small protozoan which is deriving nutrition. So the protozoan is a endoparasite within the tick. मतलब host के ऊपर parasite, parasite के अंदर parasite. When we find this kind of a parasitism, this is called as epiparasitism or hyperparasitism. Epiparasitism or hyperparasitism. That even the parasite के अंदर भी parasite है. So tick itself is ecto, but the protozoan is endo within the tick. Okay. Many of the marine fishes are infested with ectoparasitic copepods. Again, they are small organisms. Copepods. अच्छा, Did we come across cyclostoma as ectoparasites in fishes? Cyclostoma. Never remember cyclostomes? What are cyclostomes? Right? Phylum, subphylum, class, subclass. Squat.
Phylum for data.
No, just tell me what is cyclostoma.
Cyclostoma.
Huh? Yeah. Yes, so next time I think we need to put animalia now. है ना? Exam में? Yes, you are supposed to tell me, I am not supposed to tell you. Right now? ठीक है ना? Did we have only one living class? Ostracoderma was extinct. Cyclostome was the only living class. Under division Agnatha. Jawless fishes. Okay. Amongst plants, the parasitic example of Cuscuta is very well known. It has come to us before in the discussion. Cuscuta is a parasitic plant. Commonly found growing on hedge plants. Right? You've seen those plants which are present on the road dividers. लोगों को रोड क्रॉस करने से रोकने के लिए अरे छोटे plants, those are hedge plants on the pavements and sideways, right? Now those are hedge plants. The female mosquito is not considered a parasite, although it needs our blood for reproduction. It does not require for food, does not require for nourishment. Right? Generally, the parasite and host is for nourishment. Okay. In contrast, endoparasites are those that live inside the host body at different sites. The life cycle of endoparasites are more complex because of their extreme specialization. Morphological and anatomical features are greatly simplified while emphasizing their reproductive potential. Again, the emphasis is on the higher rate or higher efficiency of reproduction. Another example of parasitism is brood parasitism, where the parasitic bird is laying eggs in the nest of its host. Right? This is called koel, the cuckoo, right? Now, it is called as brood parasitism. It is called as brood parasitism. Yes?
Sir, that food spot is cyclostoma.
Yeah. There are other types of parasitisms also, parasitic attachments also. One of them is called kleptoparasitism, where the parasite steals from the host. Klepto का मतलब steal होता है. Right? If you heard of kleptomania. It's a disease. Right? People are addicted to stealing. Yes, it's a sickness. Right? अच्छा बिल्कुल नहीं है. Second, you have adelphoparasitism. Right? Adelphoparasitism में the parasite and the host are very closely related to each other. Right? In terms of taxonomy. Okay.
How is it detrimental to the...
Yes, sir. Kabir ji.
That is epiparasitic endoparasitic.
Yeah. Yes.
So what is the name you gave for the eggs, for example?
Epiparasitism or hyperparasitism? नहीं पैरासाइट होस्ट क्यों स्टील करेगा मतलब अपना ही माल खुद स्टील करके जाएगा ऐसा इसने बोला सोन टिफिन खाया कर बराबर टाइम पे यस यू आर आस्किंग समथिंग
So the coil lays is good. How is it detrimental to the crow?
नहीं slowly it will push the eggs out of them right ना खुद के eggs cultivate करेगा वहाँ पर okay
No, but then it can push the coil But I didn't know that it
It will promote its own egg and pushing the host guy.
How doesn't the host like?
Real.
They resemble the host.
They resemble the host egg, that's why. Okay. The last interaction is mutualism.
I think it's still neutral and positive for according to
नहीं नहीं.
detrimental is the progeny of it will grow up. So there will be competition there.
नहीं. Quiet please. Okay. Mutualism, positively interspecific interaction. Both the species are benefiting from each other's presence. Two examples already covered for you have been lichen and mycorrhiza. Lichen is between fungus and algae. It could also be a cyanobacteria. You know the cyanobacteria is also called as the blue-green algae, BGA. Mycorrhiza is between fungus and roots of fire plants. But the most interesting of all the examples of mutualism are plant-animal relationships, specifically with respect to pollination. Specifically with respect to pollination. Plants need help of animals for pollinating their flowers, dispersing their seeds. Animals have to be paid in return, right? And they have to be given. And in the previous chapter we said it's almost always pollen or nectar. Right? So pollen and nectar for pollinators, nutritious fruits for seed dispensers. But the mutually beneficial system should be safeguarded against cheaters. You have heard about pollen robbers with it, right? No? Those who will take away the pollen without doing the pollination. Now we can see why plant-animal interactions often involve coevolution. That is evolution of flower also and pollinator. In many of the species of fig trees, right? Fig is Ficus carica. Ficus carica. Right? I remember having given ficus as an option in one of the planting questions. Ficus. Banyan also comes under the same genera, right? Now Ficus bengalensis. Ficus bengalensis is banyan tree. The ficus can be pollinated by only its partner wasp. Right now wasp is a bee-like structure and no other species. Now what is the mutualism here? The female wasp uses the fruit not only as an egg-laying site, oviposition का मतलब होता है egg-laying site, but uses the developing seeds within the fruit for nourishing its larvae. Sounds like yucca. Yucca wala example. Okay. The wasp pollinates the fig inflorescence while searching for the suitable egg-laying sites. मैंने fig inflorescence को bold किया है वहाँ पर. Why the term inflorescence has been used here? Because fig is a composite fruit. If you remember, I had given you fruits are of three types: simple, aggregate, and composite. Composite fruits are those fruits which develop from an entire inflorescence. That is why the term inflorescence has been used here. Right? Fig flower use नहीं किया उन्होंने. Inflorescence word use किया. Okay, so what type of fruit is fig? It's a composite fruit. And the fig has the flower of the fig has a very typical or a very different type of an inflorescence. But it does not fall in the category of racemose or cymose. It's a very special kind. It's called hypanthodium. Right? Not there for us. Just making a mention of that, please. So fig inflorescence while searching for suitable egg-laying sites. In return for the favor of pollination, the fig is offering the wasp some of its developing seeds for the larvae. Right? So both are benefiting from each other's presence. Now, the other example given is the ophryswal example, the sexual deceit which you already covered. Right? But यहाँ पर the NCERT, instead of wasp, it is mentioning bee. It is instead of wasp, it is mentioning the bee. This change should be noted, please. बाकी तो वही discussion है which we have done already in reproduction plants, please. Huh?
So, is it correct for this?
Yeah, please. We have to make that. You have to stick to what is given in the NCERT. The same pseudo copulation point has been mentioned. If the female bee's color pattern changes even slightly for any reason during evolution, the pollination success will be reduced unless the orchid flower also co-evolves to maintain the same resemblance. So the same coevolution point has been mentioned. So wherever there is one-to-one relationship, their coevolution will emerge as a after effect.
So in the malaria example, if that's the number of hosts, then it will be different.
Yeah.
And the vector and
You
the
will,
intermediate
yeah.
host is the different.
Yes. You will learn about that in human health and disease. If you even look at the diagram in the NCERT, you will see one host, other host. इस तरह के diagram में दिया है. Okay. So all the 6 interactions are done. So one part of the chapter is over. Coming to the next part, which is population attributes. Population attributes. Now herein different aspects of population have been discussed, and you should be knowing that study of population is called demography. Right? The study of population is called demography. So when you use terms like natality, mortality, sex ratio, age distribution, population density, ये सब कौन से terms है? Demographic terms है. All demographic terms, and that is what we are going to see here. Now the first point which has been given here is the definition of population. Right? If we have a group of organisms, a group of random organisms cannot be called as population. For a group of organisms to be labeled as population, there are 3 conditions to be satisfied. Right? सबसे पहले, the group is residing, staying in a well-defined geographical area. So when I consider a group of organisms, let's say in Bombay and in Gujarat, geographical area अलग-अलग हो गया. But when I say India एक हो जाएगा, चलेगा. अरे समझ में? तो the geographical area has to be defined. Number 1. Second, they will share or compete for similar resources. And third, they can interbreed. Obviously, if they are interbreeding, all the organisms are of the same species. And if they are same species, the resources also will be similar. Now please, a close look at the words used here. They are saying share or compete. जब resources same है, जब resources limited है, तो competition is more likely. But why are they using the word share? This share is referring to resource partitioning. This resource partitioning को refer कर रहा है कि ये sharing भी हो सकता है.
Interbreeding भी same genus है, क्योंकि pardes और textigrams भी हो सकते हैं. But viable organisms, of course.
नहीं हो सकता.
There are ligers and turtles.
नहीं, but that is not in nature. It is artificial. Okay. ठीक है. So 3 conditions for a group to be called as population: area, resource, and interbreeding. So when these 3 conditions get fulfilled, that group becomes a population. Now, some examples of population have been given here. Cormorants in a wetland, rats in an abandoned dwelling, teakwood in a forest, bacteria in a culture, lotus in a pond. Right? See, everywhere they have tried to mention the geographical area. ठीक है? अच्छा, cormorants are birds, please. They are birds. Birds. Yes, वही वाले birds. Oh, wait a minute. In the last session we came across cattle egrets. वो भी birds थे. Wobblers. Birds थे. Okay. So wobblers, cattle egrets, cormorants, all go into your class use का example. What was that reaction there? हाँ? तो ये तीनों अगर डाल दिया ना तो
मैं ही झगड़ने होगा। Wobblers, cattle egret and
cormorant है ना? तो ऐसा क्यों होता है?
ऐसे क्यों करते हो?
ऐसे क्यों नहीं? मेरा काम है ये सब पॉइंट आउट करना आपको यार.
सर इनका साइंटिफिक नेम भी याद
हाँ?
इनका साइंटिफिक नेम भी याद
नहीं. ठीक है, चलो. Yes, please. Now this point is important. See, last time we learned about the ecological hierarchy, right? Na? Ecological organization. It starts with organism, and the second level is population. Now, what are they mentioning here? That when there is a change in the environment, any of the conditions of environment, who is the one who is dealing with those changes? The organism. And will the organism have to undergo certain changes to cope up with that? There will be certain changes within that, right? जिसको हम लोग adaptation बोलते हैं, right? They are mentioning that ये adaptation, ये change जो आएगा, वो अकेले organism में नहीं आएगा, वो पूरे population में आएगा. That change is nothing but evolution. To cope up with that change, it needs to evolve a character. So that evolution will not be in a standalone organism. That evolution will be the entire population evolve. So what is the unit of evolution? Population. So a population evolves. A single organism cannot undergo evolution. If there is any evolutionary trait developing, it has to appear in an entire population. It cannot come in a single organism. Look at the statement here. Although an individual organism is the one that has to cope up with the changed environment, it is at the population level that natural selection operates. What is natural selection? It is a mechanism of evolution as suggested by Darwin. When we come across the chapter in evolution, we are going to learn three theories of evolution. The one which is given by Lamarck, he gave use and disuse ka theory. Use of organs and disuse of organs. Then Darwin, which has given natural selection. And third is Hugo de Vries, the one who rediscovered Mendel's work. Right now, Hugo de Vries, he has given mutation theory. All these three gentlemen were of the same opinion that evolution is existing. But the mechanism of evolution, they were differing. One was saying use disuse से evolution हुआ है. One was saying नहीं natural selection से evolution हो रहा है, वो बोलता नहीं mutation से हो रहा है. तो ये सब mechanism से evolution के. So यहाँ पर it is natural selection is acting on population, not on organism. So what is the unit of evolution according to natural selection? It is population. It is not organism. So what we have to remember is evolution अगर होगा तो कौन से level पे होगा? Population. An individual organism in itself cannot evolve. Evolution अगर होना है तो पूरे population का होगा. Yes, sir, please.
For all three of them, evolution, like all their different theories, even mutation, the unit will be population.
For all the evolutions, yes. Right now, but those two are discarded. Only the accepted theory is natural selection. ठीक है? So this is a very important point, please. So therefore population ecology is an important area of study because it links ecology to population genetics and evolution. Okay? ये because आ गया मतलब again. Now you are learning. Okay. Now coming to attributes of population. Now the chapter here discusses 5 attributes of population: birth rate, death rate, sex ratio, age distribution, and population density. 5 attributes. A population has certain attributes, right, which an individual organism does not. An individual may have birth, may die, but population has birth rate and death rate. What is birth rate? Natality. And death rate is mortality. But in a population, these rates refer to per capita births and deaths. Per capita births and deaths. Right ना? Per capita हम लोग ने economics में पढ़ा है. Per capita income. Right ना? You know how I calculate per capita income of a country? Total income of the country divided by total population. Right? Total resources of the country divided by total population. That gives you per capita income of the country. See, that is why India has a low per capita, even lower than countries like Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. Why? Because अपना population, अपना denominator बड़ा है. We may be more advanced countries than them, but still our population is very high. That's why the per capita is low. Right? So per capita births and death. That means you calculate the birth and death with respect to a per person. So if there are 20 plants, give an example NCERT का, 20 lotus plants in a pond, and 8 are new added to it. 8 are reproduced. So for every plant, how many new lotus plants are coming? 8 by 20. So that's 0.4. So for every lotus plant, that means per capita. उसको बोलते हैं per capita. So they have given example for birth rate and death rate. देखो 40 में से 4 are dying. So it is 4 by 40, 0.1 fruit fly. Another characteristic attribute of a population is sex ratio. Right? Sex ratio is individual may be male female, but population के पास sex ratio, the number of males per 1,000 females or number of females per 1,000 males. Both are attributed correctly, but NCERT has refrained from making any definition, please. In our country, generally it is number of females per 1,000 males. Right? Obviously, given the background of a country, right? Obviously, we are. Chalo. Yes, sex ratio is a much widely discussed topic. A lot of reasons are linked to the skewed sex ratio that is existing in our country, right? Especially in areas of north of our country, right? Uttar Pradesh and Bihar and Haryana, we see the ratio is very skewed. In nature, the ideal ratio is 1:1. The ideal ratio, obviously, according to nature, is 1:1. But we find this ratio disturbed in many, because of our interferences, because of our backgrounds, because of our medieval thinking, right now, because of our wrong practices, female fitting. The reasons can be A to Z. 26 reason आ सकते हैं उसमें. Right now, we're not bothered about that. That is not under the scope of discussion here, please. Okay. The next is age distribution. The fourth attribute is age distribution. Now, age distribution में the parameter which they have used to divide the population is reproductive capacity. Reproductive capacity. So they have taken 0 to 15 years as pre-reproductive age. 15 to 55 is the reproductive age, and after 55 is the post-reproductive age. Right? So they have divided the population in 3 categories. according to the age, according to the reproductive capacity. So now, if you compare according to this, right now what you get is the age pyramid. And the shape of the pyramid tells us what kind of a population is it now. You see the yellow is for the pre-reproductive, the blue is for the reproductive, and the pink here is post-reproductive. In the first case, if you see the pre-reproductives are more than the reproductives, that means the number of reproducing organisms which are going to replace them is going to be higher. So the population is always going to be in an expanding mode. Right? We find underdeveloped nations and developing nations to be in this kind of a age pyramid. It's an expanding kind of a population, always increasing. Right? And who is the king of developing nations? India. एंड मुझे याद नहीं, जब से इकोनॉमिक्स का बुक हाथ में उठाया तब से मैं वही पढ़ रहा हूँ, इंडिया इज अ डेवलपिंग नेशन. राइट, आई हैव नेवर रेड एनी द सेंटेंस इंडिया इज अ डेवलपिंग नेशन. राइट ना, तो आज तक इतना डेवलपिंग नेशन है कि हम लोग सारे डेवलपिंग नेशन के राजा बन गए. बस वी जस्ट नॉट क्रॉसिंग ओवर टू बिकम अ डेवलप्ड नेशन. I don't know how many more centuries it will take for us, right? Na? Right? समझ ना, king of developing nations, गरीबों का अमिताभ बच्चन. तो वैसा हो गया हमारे लिए तो, ठीक है? Yes, please. Yes. Okay. The second one is a stable population, where you can see that number of pre-reproductives is the same as number of reproductives. So the amount, the population to be replaced is the same. So the growth rate is around static. It is not going to change. So it's a stable kind of a population, where you don't find any drastic change in the numbers of population across the years also. And the third is a declining type of a population, where the number of pre-reproductives is less. So accordingly, can you see the shape of the pyramid changes? The shape of the pyramid changes. The shape is indicative of what type of a population is this. It's a declining population, it's a stable population, or an expanding population. Right? The developed nations and the higher northern hemisphere countries, what do we call them? Scandinavian countries, right? Sweden, Norway types, all this. They are all declining populations. वहाँ पे सारे लोग ही नहीं, जगह ही जगह लोग नहीं वहाँ पे, और हमारे यहाँ पे लोग ही लोग हैं, जगह नहीं है हमारे पास. Yes, Kabir. Japan is a declining population. Japan is a decline. नहीं, Japan के reasons अलग है.
But their population is so old, right?
They have more of, because see उनके reasons अलग है. Right now, the after effects of the bombings have resulted in so many chromosomal defects and disorders, and which are still found in the coming generation, that literally scared to give rise to new children actually. Right now, the chromosomal defects are still found in some of the children who are born today also, because the effects have been genetic, ना? तो वो अभी तक आ रहा है, वो उसका reason actually. Yes.
So what in declining population, mortality rate is high, right? So what do you call it? So advanced developed countries, so the mortality rate will be high. So obviously
These are stable populations. We are talking about advanced countries will be here.
developed countries, they have better facilities and everything. That also affects the.
Yes, see, a lot of factors come into here, right? Now, a lot of factors. We are not only talking about numbers here, right? Now, and exactly that's not a topic of discussion here right now. Okay. So क्योंकि NCERT ने सिर्फ यहाँ ये 3 टाइप के है भाई, ये 3 टाइप पढ़ो आप, राइट? वरना इसका डिस्कशन बहुत लंबा चल सकता है, इसके पीछे के रीजंस क्या है, इफेक्ट्स क्या है, बहुत लंबा चल सकता है, ठीक है ना? So we are not in a sociology lecture right now. Yes. 0 to 50, 15 to 55, more than 55. Yes. अच्छा, ये पिरामिड के अंदर ये स्ट्रेट लाइन दिख रहा है आपको बीच में, ये क्लासिफिकेशन है मेल फीमेल के लिए, ये मेल फीमेल के लिए क्लासिफिकेशन. हाँ, अब not necessarily. Okay. Yes. So 4 attributes done. Death rate, birth rate, sex ratio and age pyramid. That is age distribution. The fifth is density, number. Now the shape of the pyramid, ये तो point हो गया. The size of the population. This is the fifth attribute. The fifth attribute is the size of the population. Now tells us a lot about its status in the habitat. Now if we are examining any ecological process like outcome of competition with other species, right? When we are referring to a population, are we talking about the same species? We are referring to the same species, right? Now, so if there is competition, will there be an effect on the number? Yes, definitely. Competition से reduce होगा वो. The impact of a predator, will it affect the number? Yes. The effect of pesticide application, will it affect the number? Yes. So this is referring to the population size. We always evaluate them in terms of the change in population size. Now population